Braveheart and the Dragon. Long ago, a nation lived in prosperity and happiness. It was situated in a beautiful valley, surrounded and protected by high mountains. The valley itself consisted of extensive meadows, full of beautiful flowers in every conceivable color. In summertime, there were fields of waving corn, and among them clusters of all different kinds of trees. Rivers running down from the surrounding mountains and crystal-clear brooks with murmuring and babbling water crisscrossed the country, so that plants, animals and people could always quench their thirst. Apart from the many varieties of plants, there was any animal imaginable, especially the most beautiful birds and butterflies, which lived in the valley in harmony with the people. The people dwelt in villages that were built deep in the countryside and lovely detached houses. There was plenty of everything. Food, such as grain, vegetables and fruits, was grown effortlessly in the fertile earth. People worked because they enjoyed working. The children learned while playing. They were allowed to do what they liked, so they played a lot together and with the older people, who had also plenty of time to play, to dance, and to enjoy themselves. Everyone played all kinds of games. Because they played so much, and everyone could join to their heart's content, everything was really just a game, and they didn't quarrel, living in unity and harmony, and everyone was happy and content. In summertime, when the valley was warm and light in the cherishing sun, they lived most of the time outside, playing music, dancing and feasting. In winter, they lived more inside, in the cozy cottages, sitting together around the warm stoves, playing games, and the older people told the children stories which held them in suspense. One of the stories the children could never have enough of, and which was demanded over and over again, was the ancient story of Braveheart and the Dragon. "Grandfather, do tell it again," begged the children. Grandfather coughed a few times. The children came to sit around him, and he began the story with a soft, deep voice. The people in the valley had always lived in peace and happiness. For a long time, as long as one could remember, the whole valley suffered from the tyranny of a terrible dragon. The carefully cultivated crops were destroyed at one go. Woods went up in flames by his all-consuming fire. The cattle were continuously in danger of falling into the clutches of the dragon. The people complained, but resigned to the fatal situation because it was all they knew. When the dragon was heard or seen, everyone was struck by a horrible fear. Children crept away frightened with their mothers and fathers. When the older people were too scared, they fled into brief amusements, drinking and eating, looking for support and safety with each other. So they endured the situation, till the dragon attacked their small children. Now the people felt really threatened, and they began to think of tricks how to kill the dragon. At his wits' end, the king of the country had his heralds announce to everyone that the one who would kill the dragon would receive the hand of his daughter. That was Princess Virginia, and later the whole kingdom. Tempted by such an extraordinary reward, a number of young men arrived at court. The first one and the most impudent of the candidates, who was going to have a try to reach the lair of the dragon at the top of the mountain, was called Brutus. He was strong and an experienced fighter. He took a large sword with him on the way to the top. He set off cheerfully, but before he was halfway, the dragon had seen him. He approached him and blew him from the mountain with one single burst of fire from his terrible mouth. The second attempt was made by someone who was smarter. His real name was not even known, because he was always called Einstein. For the sake of convenience, we will call him One Stone from now on. One Stone had thought of a smart plan to kill the dragon. He built a machine in the shape of a dragon that could fly. With that machine, he could fly to the mountain top and to the scared dragon and kill him. All went well, and One Stone flew part of the way to the top when the dragon approached wildly and fearlessly, hitting the flying machine so hard with his tail that he fell apart in the air into 1,000 pieces. After that disastrous failure, nobody dared anymore to kill the dragon. Until a very special young man decided to have a try. He was called Dare Not, and at first he was too afraid to kill the dragon. But one day he saw the princess, and he felt hopelessly in love with her. Since that day, he dreamt of her and about his possibilities to kill the dragon. However, these seemed to be limited, because he was not really exceptional, and he was particularly afraid of such a terrible dragon. Thus he gave himself little chance of success. But as said before, he was in love, and he remained puzzled over how he could conquer the dragon, and with that the princess. At his wits' end, Daryl went to his neighbor, called Sophia, to ask for help. Fortunately, she was a kind witch who was capable of everything and knew everything. Daryl told Sophia the whole story and asked if she could help him. "I can help you," said Sophia after having been quiet for some time. "You will have to learn 3 things. First of all, you have to give up your desires. Thus you must forget Princess Virginia and stop dreaming about her. Next, you shall not concentrate on your fear anymore, and so forget about the dragon. The killing of the dragon will come later, automatically. And thirdly, you will have to be light, and I will teach you how to fly. This I am able to do myself, so you have come to the right person. If you feel up to it, then just tell me and we will start. And finally, you will have to change your name from Dare Not into Braveheart." Dare Not was frightened terribly by what Sophia had said all. How could he forget the princess? Everything revolved around her. And how could he forget the dragon? This is what he had to kill. How could he ever succeed if he forgot the dragon? And then, being so light that he could fly, making a little jump, yes, he could do that, but he would never get any higher, and he did not feel light at all. So how could he ever become so light that he would conquer the gravity of the earth and be able to fly? When he considered all this, his heart sank into his boots, and he sat down on the ground and wept bitterly. Sophia came with her heart to his heart and said softly, "You can do it, and I will help you." Thereupon he felt his sorrow lifting, and his world became lighter around him. He got up and declared, "All right, I have decided to do it, and I gladly accept your help. To begin with, my name is now Braveheart." Sophia smiled when she heard Braveheart speak like this. "About those desires and fears we can be brief," Sophia said with her golden voice. "If you have to think about the princess or the dragon, then you let those thoughts float past. Don't stick to them. Just look how they disappear and how you see the blue sky and the sun again. That's all. Now for the flying." Suddenly Braveheart realized how easy it was, and that he only had to look at his thought clouds. He felt happier and already a lot lighter. "Flying is really a piece of cake," Sophia said. "In fact, you can do it already, but you have forgotten. You only have to dare and you can do it." That sounds very simple," Braveheart said, "but how?" "We will go together," Sophia replied. "Then you will confront it." Braveheart was not totally convinced, but he followed her through the dense forest to the edge of the cliff. Braveheart felt his legs starting to tremble with fear. He whispered, "I can't do it." Thereupon Sophia said patiently, "I will show you first." And at that she jumped over the edge and flew around through the air. She landed beside him. Now Braveheart did not dare to say again that he couldn't. Thus, more out of fear than because of his courage, he gave Sophia a hand, and they jumped over the edge. Suddenly he felt as if he was lifted up. That was the lightness about which he spoke, of course. Fantastic how he felt free now. He let go of her hands and flew alone, fearlessly like a bird in the sky. Braveheart could not get enough of it, but Sophia gestured to go down, and so they landed again on the ground. Then Sophia spoke, "Now you are ready for your last instruction, killing the dragon. When the dragon is sleeping, you simply fly to him and hold his mirror in front of his head so that he will see his reflection and will be afraid of himself and will eat himself up. Then you will fly to the palace." No sooner said than done. Braveheart waited till the dragon was sound asleep and he could hear him snoring from a distance. Then he flew easily and noiselessly to the mountaintop and came down on the ground next to the terrible dragon. Without hesitation, he held the mirror before the hideous head of the dragon. Just for a moment, the dragon raised his eyelids and looked at himself anxiously. He began to roar out of fear and ate himself up with a few gigantic bites. First his tail, next his hideous body, and finally his monstrous head. Just in time, Braveheart had cut a piece of his tail, as a proof that he had overcome the dragon. Braveheart flew back downhill to the palace and announced that he had killed the dragon and that the country was saved for good from the terrible beast. As proof, he handed the end of the tail over to the king, who gave to him, as promised, the hand of his daughter Virginia. Braveheart saw, now he could behold the princess at close quarters, how indescribably beautiful she was, and both were moved deeply in their hearts. Soon their wedding was celebrated, and the whole country was feasting. When the king was old and weary of life, they became the new king and queen. And the people prospered and lived happily ever after. Once grandfather had finished speaking, silence followed because everything was said. And also the children were quiet for a moment. Then a small voice said, "Just like we are now, isn't that true, grandfather? Therefore we don't have to be afraid." And grandfather looked on her lovingly. "So it is precisely, my dear Savannah," because that was her name.